We think that the running the project would actually increase the understanding and awareness in R&D across the sector on the importance of relative effectiveness in defining the ultimate value of new medicines, rather than just absolute effectiveness against placebo. We see this as a great opportunity to tackle operational difficulties. Some of the techniques which are most suitable for assessing relative effectiveness may not be suitable or easy to do with a pre-licensed medicine, with an investigational compound. So we need to explore the operational issues and try and reach some solutions that the industry can look at together. And as I said, we'd like to improve the scientific platform by which the sort of joint scientific advice, multi-stakeholder consultations and other initiatives, other discussions are based on, which will focus, I think the most value would be on, as I said, what is a reasonable expectation of evidence before launch? How robust is the analysis that can be done at the time of launch? And what is the value of actually generating further evidence after launch as an alternative strategy? We do see this as a pre-competitive topic. The FPA companies recognise that a single set of standards that are co-created or endorsed by regulatory HTA and other reimbursement agencies would be of benefit to all companies, and is unlikely to be achieved by any one company acting in isolation. And we do believe that if specific case studies, disease areas that are studied as part of the call would provide not only a platform for any company working in that disease area, but also hopefully the objective would be to set principles that can be used in any disease area. As I said, the impact on R&D processes is for us to improve the consistency of the advice that we're getting at the beginning of the process, to bring some greater certainty into this sort of complex decision-making process about where to invest research funding. Hopefully that the industry becomes more effective at delivering, investing in evidence which is going to be most value to regulatory and HTA decision makers. So it should improve the efficiency of R&D by generating information of greater value. We're not intending or anticipating that this project would increase the cost and burden of evidence required for the initial regulatory approval. But it is probable that there would be opportunities or requirements to increase research costs for access approval. But this is seen by the FPA companies as an investment decision rather than a mandatory additional cost. And each company would be required to make that investment decision. How much more is it prepared to invest in different types of evidence to achieve different levels of access? How much is it prepared to invest at phase 3B at risk, rather than waiting to invest at phase 4 with a little greater certainty? So that we do make a distinction between the timing of when we can do evidence and the purpose of that evidence generation. The architecture of the project, as has been sort of said, is proposed. It's would be welcome alternative ways of addressing the objectives. The way that the FPA companies thought would be efficient to address this would be to, if you go across the middle, first of all, to take some case studies based on specific diseases, to understand the variety of research options that could be applied in that disease area, which would increasingly address relative effectiveness. So there would be a range of, or a toolbox of studies that could be done, from the improvement of the basic registration package, the initiation of 3B studies, not for registration but for reimbursement and access decisions, or studies which could only feasibly be done after launch. But we'd like the work package to explore the wide range of studies that could be done and to assess them systematically for the value of information it would give to the decision makers. The next work package would look very specifically at the operational difficulties or operational aspects of conducting different types of evidence and different types of research in a pre-launch environment. As I said, there could be ethical issues, safety concerns, just sheer feasibility issues about running different sorts of studies, larger pragmatic studies, open label studies, exposing more patients to investigational compounds. So there will be a lot of issues about the actual operational issue of studies which theoretically might be very valuable but simply can't be done. And then the third, across the middle there, is to look at, as health economists and HTA bodies, that we're always thinking not just about a study leading to a publication, but a study leading to a further round of analysis and evidence synthesis. And we want to be sure that the studies that are done by R&D lead to credible modeling, to credible evidence synthesis and more robust predictions of value in the future. So we would like to have a work package specifically looking at evidence synthesis and modeling of different types of evidence coming from R&D. The overall top work package then would be developing this framework which provides the platform, pulling all of this together and building this into and modeling and understanding the interaction of each of these different possible development strategies interacting with different regulatory and HTA processes. So rather than just looking at this as research in isolation, this is research which has to live and breathe in a decision-making process, and not just one decision-making process, but a regulatory and an HTA and reimbursement and 27 different reimbursement processes across Europe. So we do definitely need a work package which tries to put this in the decision-making context. And then, of course, there would need to be a project management work package to coordinate this activity. The contributions of the applicants for you today is we do want this to look and be able to manage the communication of all of the various different stakeholders that could be required. So there could be international academic groups, Europe, and a lot of effectiveness research being done in the US, regulatory agencies and HTA bodies across Europe, reimbursement agencies, which are often in different bodies to HTA bodies, real healthcare budget holders who are trying to make difficult access and coverage decisions, and patient groups, because as we heard with vaccines, it's the patient who ultimately will benefit from access to new medicines, and it's the patient which can define very well what the value of a new medicine is to them. The consortium should be pan-European because we recognise the diversity, especially in reimbursement and assessments of value across Europe, and maybe the impact of different healthcare system models has a direct impact on relative effectiveness research. The expertise that should be brought is clinical trial design, health economics and modelling, both regulatory affairs and HTA expertise, the management of particular disease areas, an ability to represent the patient experience and patient insight, and as I said earlier, an understanding of medical ethics and what is an appropriate level of research on investigational drugs. And finally, strategic decision-making. How do we put this all together in the framework of the decision-making processes? Apart from the expertise, it is likely that the consortium could bring valuable access to data sets. Again, real-world observational data is what we had in mind, but if together with what might be brought from the FPA members, which would include clinical trial data sets as well as observational epidemiology data sets that companies have put together, you can see how a public-private consortium can put together sources of evidence that may not be able to be brought together in other ways. A similar set of expertise would be brought by the FPA members. They've indicated not only health economics and HTA policy experts in those companies, the regulatory affairs teams, but also the biostatistics, epidemiology, clinical trial operations, and clinical specialists that work in these companies would all be brought to bear to work with the public sector. As I said, the clinical trial data sets, observational data sets, and also insights from previous regulatory and HTA interactions. So this is an opportunity for FPA to pool its understanding and its experiences to try and tackle the questions. What's in it for you? I love the title of this slide. We believe that the regulatory and HTA agencies would ultimately benefit from having information which they know to be more valuable in their decision-making processes, and also would benefit from an opportunity to work together and understand where there is alignment in evidence needs and where there are remaining differences. The academic researchers, small research-based companies would benefit from being able to work not only with the generators of evidence, but also the users, the ultimate users of the evidence, and maybe have access to research data sets they wouldn't otherwise be able to access or bring together.